So we did a pagan ritual, and by this time, the guy leading it wasn't really straight up pagan. He wasn't a priest by any means through a satru or anything like that. But we were going to sacrifice the goat, and we did. Wow. And the purpose of the sacrifice was to kick off the wild hunt, which in Norse mythology is Odin and some other gods going out and destroying their enemies through the night. Right. But in the twisted ideology of the base, the wild hunt was going to be the start of us cleansing the world of anti-fash and non-whites. Wow. To start that cleansing, to have nothing but whites in an ethno state.
Sick.
Which I always laugh because I'm like, yeah, because that'll solve everything.
Well, sure.
Welcome to the Embracing Brokenness podcast, where our goal is to engage with all of those willing to venture deeper into their transformational journey with Christ. Here's your host and co-founder of Embracing Brokenness Ministries, Steve Adams.
Okay, folks, we are back here for part 2 of my conversation with Scott Payne, author of Codename Pale Horse in the New York Times bestselling category. I actually listened to it on Audible, and it was really much better to hear Scott read this story because it's just, man, he's a great storyteller, but he's also someone who, as you already know, if you listen to part 1, has a fascinating life to share with you, and especially us as Christ followers. You know, we have a lot of brokenness in this world. He exposed it. He got a lot of convictions over the work that he did, but most importantly, he balanced that life between being a Jesus follower and someone who had to go undercover in the real world, which is oftentimes very dark, as you've already heard, and you may hear even more of today. So, folks, jump in. Glad you're here. Share, like, review. We'd love to get your feedback. Blessings. So, all right, I want to give our audience a little bit of an opportunity before I bring my special other host in to sit in front of you. I keep teasing that. By the way, folks,
you're smart man.
I know. Oh, trust me. Yeah.
I had a house full of women, man. Even my dogs are girls. I tell everybody, I go, all the toilet seats in my house are down. They broke me a long time ago. When they were little babies, they broke me. I'm like, all right, fine.
That's funny.
I'll sit down to urinate.
Yeah, whatever it takes, man. Whatever. That's fine. That's fine. Or clean up after myself. One of the two. But
I do that a lot.
Yeah. You infiltrated. It's we talked about the subtitle in the beginning. You infiltrated a group known as the Base. I, like many people, have never even begun to understand, again, the depravity, the depth in which people are willing to go. We hear about Proud Boys. We hear about all these, some of these other groups that, you see a little more higher profile. But, man, there's some stuff going on behind the scenes that I think many people don't really understand. And I bring it up only because I think it kind of leads into what I was going to say. Colleen has a few questions that I think speak to the deeper kind of masculine journey and what this looks like from a Christ-centered perspective. But even to sit in the presence of pure evil, you talk in the book a lot about, having to be almost rescue a goat from its sacrifice, which you unsuccessfully were not able to do. But that kind of thing, you read about it, hear about it, you don't recognize it going on. So as best as you can, maybe just introduce, our audience to what's going on there, what was going on, what kind of led you to that space and to where you ended up actually in a bonfire with a really pretty miraculous kind of thing going on, right? So tell everybody about that.
Cool stories, man.
That's
cool
a lead
stories.
In. I know.
Yeah, that's a great. That's good. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And you may have to circle me back because of my ADD.
That's right. I married one with ADD. You'll see. You guys will have fun.
I think America. If you got one of these, you got ADD.
Exactly.
I got to know right now.
I'm reprogrammed. Yep.
Did that thing buzz? Did somebody send me a message?
That's part of.
That's why I just put it away because I know even if I hear it buzz, I'll go.
What? Well, you and I were texting on a Sunday. We said we need to get a life.
I'm working, honey.
I know. Yeah.
I'm working.
My new friend,
Yeah.
Steve.
I'm in the middle. The next service hadn't started
That's
yet.
right. That's right.
I'll be out there. I'll walk out on stage at the right time.
I'm looking at the bulletin on my phone.
So the base, I'll say this real quick.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Proud Boys. See, a lot of people get this wrong. They're like January 6th white supremacists. I'm like, no, that's anti-government. They would call Proud Boys white supremacists. I go, their leader's not white.
Yeah.
He's not their leader anymore, but I'm like, he wasn't white.
Right.
You know? So that's anti-government. That's your, basically, they like to go out there and be loud. They like to fight. I met a lot of them in some undercovers, and I could have infiltrated the Proud Boys because I was a cookie cutter. Big muscular dude likes to go out and fight. It's like, yeah, all right, we'll go.
Yeah.
But the base, it's white supremacy. It's neo-Nazi. But in the last several years, there's been a change in the landscape to accelerationism. And what accelerationism is they follow what they call siege culture. There's a book out there called Siege. It's written by James Mason, longtime white supremacist. It's basically articles that he did, and they kind of combine them all in a book. Don't go buy it.
Yeah.
You probably get flagged if you do.
Right.
But he like idolized Charles Manson and satanic worshipers. I mean, what a great role model.
Yeah.
So when they came on the radar, we kind of learned about them from our world working partners. A lot of them were in the United States, but they're worldwide because of the phone and the internet and dark web. You can talk to somebody in Norway, right? So when I went in to infiltrate them, that's where I learned more about what their belief system was, and it was this. Accelerationism or accelerationists believe this. They don't believe there's a political solution to save the white race. They believe that society is going to collapse either on its own or from man-made events, and they want to speed that collapse up.
Wow.
Everything ends with an ethno-state. If you are on the far left extremism, everything ends with them getting their own property. If you are a radical jihadist, everything ends with you getting a caliphate. Right. It's kind of the same belief system, just to your ideology.
Gotcha.
So I infiltrated the group, and a lot of times on undercovers, you're just trying to ingratiate. You're trying to gain trust. We're being proactive. We know we've got reporting. Otherwise, we couldn't be doing the case we're doing. We've got predication. People have reported stuff, but is that enough to charge somebody and put them in jail? No.
Sure.
You may go in there and find out they're just spewing hate, which is completely protected under First Amendment of the Constitution. So I get in, and the long and short of it is we would train carbine shooting, pistol shooting, rifle shooting. Some of them had AKs and tactics, clearing tactics, and anything for survival, like hand-to-hand combat. That's what I taught the group.
Okay.
Living in the woods, building a bunker, all that stuff, because in their mind they're preparing for what they call the Boogaloo, which is basically D-Day.
Wow.
That's when the race war starts.
Wow.
And then we end up with our own ethno-state.
Wow.
I say we because I was in the group.
Yeah, right.
But they want to do it through guerrilla warfare style tactics. In other words, you're not going to see accelerationists out on the street with picket signs like the KKK or like Charlottesville or some riot or protest. Sure. They believe that's a waste of time. It makes them a mark, and it does nothing. They would rather do guerrilla warfare tactics like small attacks, like poison a water system, take down a power supply, derail a train, murder a lefty journalist, murder a lefty couple, anybody anti-fascist, and non-whites.
Wow.
So again, you can spew anything you want in the America and you're protected, right? I mean, now it could be, we can start getting into like threatening stuff. If you say, I'm going to kill you. Okay. That's a little different, you know, but just to go out here and say, I hope all racial slurs die. That's not illegal. Wow. I hate all racial slurs. That's not illegal. Yeah. But so you go in there and you try to find out, are they really planning on doing anything or not? And somewhere in there, we end up at that Halloween of 2019. It was basically a hate camp. It was like 3 or 4 days of training on a 100-acre property in North Georgia. And they kidnapped, I say they because I fell asleep in the truck. They went out and stole a ram or a goat. Still don't know the difference. It had horns.
Wow.
And we sacrificed it at a
Wow.
pagan ritual.
Wow.
Now, I know this is a Christian-based program,
Yeah.
but I always throw this caveat because white supremacists took Christianity and they called it Christian identity.
Christian identity, right.
And it was Church of Jesus Christ Christian, and that was the old Aryan nations.
Wow.
And they twist the Bible, they twist the Garden of Eden story to match their ideology. So
Sure.
the white supremacists in this group were twisting paganism. And I've got friends who are pagans. It's not my belief system, but
Yep.
I've got friends who are pagans, and they're very peaceful, and they're upset that white supremacists are using their stuff. But if you look at like Norse mythology, even Hitler was following that.
Sure.
You'll see Norse runes and stuff like that. If you look at Hitler stuff.
Yep.
So we did a pagan ritual, and by this time, the guy leading it wasn't really straight up pagan. He wasn't a priest by any means through a sautru or anything like that. But we were going to sacrifice the goat, and we did.
Wow.
And the purpose of the sacrifice was to kick off the wild hunt, which in Norse mythology is Odin and some other gods going out and destroying their enemies through the night.
Right.
But in the twisted ideology of the base, the wild hunt was going to be the start of us cleansing the world of anti-fash and non-whites.
Wow.
To start that cleansing to have nothing but whites in an ethno state.
Sick.
Which I always laugh because I'm like, yeah, because that'll solve everything.
Well, sure. And where's the
you don't think there's going to be any drama? Yeah,
well, right.
Okay.
The military's going to roll over and everything's going to be fine. And
What do you? I mean, but it's there.
Yeah.
And you can't laugh it off. That's the thing. You run into a lot of people and they're like, oh, what a bunch of idiots. What are these clowns? And I'm like, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
If I would have shown you the picture of the Columbine kids before Columbine happened, what would you have said?
Yeah.
If I showed you a picture of the Aurora Theater movie shooter before he did what he did, what would you have said? If I showed you a picture of the kid that shot up a black church in Charleston, South Carolina before he did it, what would you have said? Dead is dead. You don't have to be looking tough, and you don't. You can't underestimate. No. Don't underestimate.
No.
And what you do matters. If you see something, say something.
Exactly.
A lot of times, that's just that right there will thwart somebody's crazy ideology. They may be thinking they're going to do it, and then let's just say it's me as an FBI agent on Joint Terrorism Task Force, and I come and knock on your door with a couple of task force officers, and we're like, hey, none for nothing.
Yeah.
But we've got some reporting. You've been posting some pretty crazy stuff. Now, right now, you're well within your First Amendment right. But I just want to make sure you're not really planning on doing anything, are you? However you want to do it, but that right there might be enough to check them when they go, well, I don't want to do this. That's crazy. I'm getting ready to go to jail.
Yeah.
So, if you see something, say something. But yeah, we sacrificed the goat poorly. The guy tried to chop his head off. It didn't work. Ended up shooting it in its head.
Oh my!
But then you think you're done, and we're not, man. They sliced the throat of the goat.
Oh my goodness!
Fill up a cup of blood. I'm holding the flashlight for the guy that's running the blot, BLOT, and he's tearing off pieces of acid off of his sheet.
Unbelievable.
And almost everybody did it, but you do the acid to help with the shaman experience, which basically you're just going to be high. You're not entering the spirit world.
No, that's for sure.
You're just high. Yeah. But they would take a hit of acid and then drink the blood.
Insane.
Because the sacrifice was to Odin.
Sure.
To go to Valhalla.
Yes.
So we're showing this goat love. And it's going to kickstart the wild hunt.
Yep.
And so when it got around to me and it was my turn to drink the blood, it had already clotted. It was coagulated. It was all chunky. And I'm thinking, man, I really don't want to turn this up. Sure. And I was thinking it was another member that gave me an out. Yeah. And he's like, man, you can just dip your hand. So I dipped my finger all the way down in the blood and sucked all the blood off my fingers.
That's incredible.
And then they commenced to chopping it up, and we carried its head around for the next 3 days training. But after that weekend, I gained more trust. And that's when they started bringing me in and letting me know about murder plots they had.
Okay.
So we started uncovering these murder plots.
Yes.
And it's always acts in furtherance of.
Sure.
If I say, hey, man, I want to kill this couple, is that enough for United States Attorney's Office to charge it? I don't think so.
Right.
It's going to be a stretch. Did you do anything in furtherance of? Yeah. They scouted the house 3 times. They bought catcher bags to go on your AR. So if you do shoot, the brass gets caught. Yep. You don't leave anything. They made a silencer for the pistol we were going to kill the couple with.
Wow.
The planning was pretty thorough of what the nights was going to look like. Jeez. From the moment we met at a campsite until the time we made it back to the campsite after killing the family.
Wow.
And then on another part of the investigation, another cell, CELL, was up in the Baltimore area, and they were planning on going to a Second Amendment gun rights rally that January of 2020.
Okay.
Because their idea was that could be the start of the Boogaloo, which is again D-Day to them.
Sure.
And they were figuring there's going to be a lot of protesters. There's going to be a lot of Second Amendment people there, which is completely legal, but there may be people with nefarious plans.
Oh, yeah.
And then there would be protesters and cops. So what if they just popped a few rounds and then nobody knows who's shooting at who and they just start shooting each other? What if that's the kickoff to the Boogaloo?
Crazy.
And they were that crew was already, they were talking some crazy stuff. They were like thinking about breaking out. They refer to these mass murderers, these white supremacy mass murderers, as saints. So normally in tactical training, we never say their name. We never say the bad guy's name because that's what they want.
Sure.
But it would be Saint, the Charleston shooter's name. It would be, hey, like on the anniversary of when he killed all this, I think he killed 9 people.
Yeah.
It'll be, they'll be like Happy Saint, his last name day.
Oh my goodness.
And they had a Saints, they had a leaderboard, and it's the Saints. So you've got the Christchurch shooter, you've got the Norway shooter. Those are the top 2, and then it goes down, and it's like it's got how many? So the Charleston shooter, it says 9-0. In other words, he killed 9 people.
Unreal.
And then it says, "What are you going to do to make the leaderboard?"
Oh.
And that's the kind of stuff you can find online. And a lot of these, I say kids, but there's a lot of people being radicalized online because they're going to these dark web apps or Telegram or things that technology, they may be great, like WhatsApp, Snapchat, but there's a lot of nefarious stuff going on.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, there's predators even going and playing Roblox and grooming kids. Whoa. So if your kid's online playing Roblox, you need to make sure, because bad people go to those places to find things.
Man.
Brutal. So we uncovered a lot of that, and then we ended up taking them down. But that Halloween weekend ended with a bonfire, and everything's being filmed for propaganda recruitment reasons.
Sure.
Every video we put out had to be better than the last one, and we went down to the bonfire that Saturday night. So it would have been like October 31st was Thursday, so November 2nd.
Okay.
We go down, it's a bonfire, carry holy Bibles, carry American flags, and while we're videoing it, we'll burn the American flag. Everybody's like, F America, death to America, F your Jewish God.
Wow.
And then we burned, I didn't actually place one on, but the group burned holy Bibles in this bonfire. And even on the propaganda video, you can see them opening it face open and putting it down in the fire. Oof, I hit my microphone. Putting it down in the fire. And as the fire dies down, if you've ever seen like a book or thing with pages in it burning a fire, you can see like those layers of the sheets. And one of the guys is stoking the coals. And as he stokes them, he's at the bottom and he flips, and one of the Bibles opens up, face up, not burned at all.
I love that.
The outside singed, but the pages are not burnt. And I've heard people, science, they're like, well, a lot of Bibles pages are made out of clay, they're harder to burn. Whatever, bro. I watched it burn American flag. You tell yourself what you want to, but so the guy actually starts taking that Bible, tearing pages out of it, and singly setting them on fire. And now the bonfire goes back up, and we're all there, and you're watching the flames, and again, just spewing hate. We've already drank the blood of the goat and sacrificed it and all that stuff, carrying his head around for a couple of days, and now we're back down at the holy spot. the sanctuary or whatever you want to call it. And so he's stoking the coals again. He's stoking and getting the fire going again. And another Bible opens up that's not burnt. And then at that point, one of the members at the base says, "Man, these effing Bibles just won't burn." And on my inside, I kind of like, I mean, I did like a little,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like a
You
little
wanted
Sammy
to,
Sosa.
yeah,
I'm like,
in your head.
yeah, I'm like, that's good. I'm getting it. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I smell what you're cooking. You know, but yeah, it didn't burn. So I wish I could have seen.
Yeah.
I wish I could have seen what book it opened to.
Oh, that would be
just because I'm sure it had to be something.
Yeah.
But I will say that one of the pictures inside the book, if you blow it up, it's one I took of the fire as well.
Yeah.
And one night I was in a hotel going through my Undercover phone, and I looked, and when I expanded it, you can clearly see in the middle of the flames, you can see Holy Bible. So that picture's in the book.
I'll tell you what, God gets his ways. I would have loved to even seen into the spiritual realm, the unseen realm at that point, to see who was getting the real victory in that one. But man, Scott, that is wild. I tell you what, so though, like through it all though, you have had to have, we talked earlier, but there had to be a recognition in a way where your faith was strengthened through the process. I know the question, right, that you brought up earlier. People are like, how do you do this? How do you balance this? How do you go into this arena as a believer and operate there? I mean, I have answers, but I'd love to hear what you had to say about that.
I mean, sometimes it's not easy. Like after that 4-day weekend, when I got home, you can say I was just tired, dirty, sleep deprived, hungry, but I felt weird, man. I texted my pastor. I was like, that was weird. Because on the spiritual realm, the spiritual warfare realm, that's hard for me to say.
Yeah.
My lips are getting in the way of my mouth. Yeah, I was like, man, and I text my pastor, and I'm like, hey, I know it's hard for type A's to reach out and guys and, manly men or whatever you want to call yourselves. Yeah. But I'm like, I could use some praying, man. I'm like, I just did some stuff over the weekend and I'm not feeling too good about it. Yeah. So I've done that, but I'll go back to what I realized when I crashed and I was praying. Looking for answers, anything, guidance. I don't care. Not even answers, just guidance. Sure. Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? And that's when I realized that I would have never been able to do any of those things if he didn't bless me with that skill set anyway. So that's how I remain humble. And again, I'm broke. I'm not always perfect. I'm never perfect. Nobody's perfect, but I've messed up a lot. That's what I'm trying to say. But that's how. I mean, if I look at my history on this planet and the things that I was good at undercover with my skill set and what kind of cases I got with that skill set and connecting with people, it's been a building block the whole time. Sure. It's been my whole life. And then my faith has been there. And like I said, man, it's been so grounding. Like my wife, she used to worry to pieces, like especially during the outlaw stuff.
Sure.
And her big thing, she would get all nervous, so her nervous energy would move furniture. So I'd come home from a week in Boston, and I'd be, even the dog's like, why is there a couch right here? Like what happened? But eventually she gave it up to God. That's the only way she could survive, was just, look, I can sit here and worry myself to death, or I can give it up to God. Yeah. But even at the end of my career, I didn't know it was the end yet.
Yeah.
I thought I was still going to work like 7 more years. Yeah. But during that base case, we were out on the back porch one night, and she says something to the effect of she was covering me in prayer. And I kind of giggled, not because she was covering me, but I was just like, hun, I was a narcotics officer when you met me. We've been doing this for how many years? 25 that you've been a part of? I don't know. I'm like, you don't have to worry and be praying. I mean, I'm not bad at what I do, and I'm not lax. I got a certain skill set, like I said. Right. And she jerked a knot in my tail, man. She said, let me tell you something. She's like, the joking was over. She's like, I'm your wife, and it's my job to cover you. And when you're out on these undercovers, I'm covering you in prayer. And I was like, I'm sorry. I giggled, and thank you so much. And I apologize, and I really appreciate it.
Man. Oh, you know how to set up the segue. By the way, on your shirt says it all right there. Persevere.
Day 41 apparel.
That's it, man.
I'm not getting nothing back from them, but it's a cool shirt.
Well, so there you go. Go there, get it. Persevere.
Yeah. The 41st day.
The 41st day. I'm going to bring Colleen in. At this point, this is again, good setup, good segue. Maybe we should invite Kara over. We could have just one big happy family, have a conversation here, but maybe someday.
I thought about it, but her face hasn't been on anything yet.
Okay.
I thought about it for today.
Okay.
I was like, hey, you should come hop on this one. I went, nope, never mind.
Oh, well, you know what?
Yeah.
Probably, I'm going to guess you're more extroverted. Maybe she's the introvert of the family. I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
All right.
You nailed it.
Okay. Usually that's kind of the way things go, right?
Goodness gracious. If there was two of us, there would be no oxygen left in the room.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. So I call her, she has a code name too. It's my code name for her, called the Velvet Hammer. How's that? Okay.
All right.
Right. So it's smooth.
That sounds like a good wrestler name.
Oh, well, I don't know if she's ever wrestled. She might. She had 3 brothers who I'm sure she got herself into some serious wrestling matches. But
The same.
But it is a good wrestling name. You're right. I didn't think about that. But from a spiritual perspective, which is where I was going, it's like, well, you know, there's a smooth sort of surface to it, but when you get hit by it, the truth, like you feel it. So she's a truth teller, but at the same time, here's what most people describe her as: she's more the love bug. She's more the one that shows up in a time of need when people really need it. Her ADD, like yours, she's a visionary and she's all over, but when you need her, she's on the spot. And I have a feeling like that's you. And so, you know, she served, 12 years at a local mission here on the leadership team, working with folks experiencing homelessness. And now she left that to join me in ministry full time a couple of years ago. And so we do this, but we really serve day by day wherever God calls us. And it's with most of the times people marginalized, people that are just set aside, and most folks don't want to engage, I remember what it was like. When I walk down the street and see somebody experiencing homelessness, I'd go to the other side of the street, just in fear of what might come out of that. But she's a little different than that. So I'm going to grab her and we're going to let this thing keep rolling, and then we'll let her go from here.
Scott, you got the professional podcaster. Now you get the rookie. I usually am prayer behind podcasts. And so I'm praying. And I just got this overwhelming feeling that I was supposed to get on with you. And so I'll tell you why that is, because then I prayed some more and God just started to really download some things that really come more from my background. So I think we have a real strong need in the American church to bring back true biblical masculinity. And we have thrown out parts of masculinity that we would call toxic, just like society has. But the traits are not toxic. They are the traits of biblical masculinity just gone awry. And so to throw the baby out with the bathwater, that the church is doing is concerning. And it concerns me for, we've heard it from some military people and that it's almost like, you go to war, you do the horrible things, you come back, and now you got to be the nice, meek, churchy guy, right? And so there's almost like 2 parts to you, and it becomes, it really creates incredible trauma and issues. And so I think that would be the other issue that really concerns me.
That's good. So a lot of those those accelerationist groups I'm talking about, even though they were doing the Norse mythology type or just any kind of pagan, well, again, you didn't hear this part, but they're taking paganism beliefs and they're switching them to their ideology, just like the white supremacists, like Aryan nations that took Christianity and made Christian identity, which is just completely flipping the Garden of Eden story upside down to fit their ideology. Okay. So But the thing is, with a lot of those accelerationist groups, if you scratch at the surface,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably somebody in that group that is dealing with order of 9 angles, and there's some other ones that are popping up now.
Okay.
They are white supremacist groups that are huge on Satanism. They're
Okay.
huge. They're huge on, now whether they're actually going out there and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's our job. We're trying to figure that out.
Right.
But they spew it in their dark web apps
Okay.
and in their channels. So they're big on sexual abuse, rape,
Mm-hmm.
and pedophilia.
Yeah.
So you will see that in a lot of there. But
Yeah.
I go on a lot of interviews, and it's like, I just tell people, I'm like, look, if you want to kind of understand where I've been and what me and my peers and
Mm.
our sheep, our shepherd mentality,
Yeah.
you just need to know that there are evil people on this planet.
Yep.
That want to do evil things to good people.
Yeah.
And it's been that way pretty much since the beginning of time. Now, I get it. I'm not trying to make you live in fear and walk around scared to leave your house.
Right.
But you just need, if your brain can't understand that, just know that that's where we come in as shepherds
Mm-hmm.
and sheepdogs protecting the sheep.
Yeah.
And that's, I get it. But people, look, I've stared evil, like you said. I've stared it in the face. I've been evil, it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
sure.
by definition, and maybe that's helpful too. Like when I think of the definition of evil, I think we have such a hard time in the church just even coming up with the definition. What is it? And for me, the definition of evil, it wasn't created. It didn't exist before man sinned. So it has a lot to do with man and sin. And we have God declaring he creates man, all creation is finished, and we see the very good of God, which means all the rules of how things operate, what they're supposed to do, like all of it is perfect in God's eyes. So to me, evil is anything that messes with the very good of God, that tries to change it, and we see so many of those components are relational. Some of those things are actually corporate in community. They're not necessarily personal, but it all starts with the person, and the choices that we make. And so it's interesting, by definition, the cultural mandate calls us to, subdue the earth and fill it, rule it. It's out of servant-hearted leadership and all looking for human flourishing. And so a lot of times the definition to me is anything that's against human flourishing is evil. And you're right. Like when I think about that, I've done many things that have hindered other people's human flourishing, and that's wicked. It's not righteous. It's just evil. So I think we can all relate to that part of our flesh that wants to do that. But then there's a level, and I guess my question to you is, of what you've seen and kind of using that definition, the level is, are most of the people that are involved in the highest levels of kind of wickedness people that you would view when the Bible says, I turn them over to their desires? Like, do you see in any of the people you've worked with an ability to turn and become, I'm going to use a word righteous. That's such a churchy word, but to say, wow, kind of like Paul when he was Saul, he persecuted the church, but then he had an awakening.
Oh, yeah.
So you saw,
absolutely.
So you saw the goodness at times come from, okay.
Yeah. I mentioned it with your husband, but it's like I call them like success stories,
Okay.
right? Somebody who's messed up and they realize the error of their ways, and your past doesn't control you. You can change.
Yeah.
And I help them. I'm like, I'm the one that puts you in jail, but I'm helping you because you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I clearly believe that.
Okay.
But that's the redemption, right?
Amen.
So you get, well, I always had to be careful too when I was working for the government, right? I can't go in there preaching.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
I'm teaching for the government,
Yep.
but I could go off to the side and go, this is not the opinion of the FBI. How can I go and do the things that I did? That's just what the Lord blessed me to do.
Yeah.
There was a time where I crashed and I was like, I had to pray about it. How am I going to remain humble and get back? And I said this to him. It's like, I would have never been able to be who I was if it wasn't for the Lord blessing me with a skill set anyway. So,
Yeah. Well,
so that's
it's
how.
interesting. You get this beautiful gift of, the strength to be a protector at a level that, and I love your word sheepdog and I love your word shepherd. Like, the reality is you're watching, what the enemy, what is going to advance against the sheep is doing. And you're saying, whoa, you're not getting to this
Yeah, that's what
flock,
we're supposed to do. It's a servant's heart. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at law enforcement, I know it's taken a bad rap in the
Right.
last several years, and I know there are bad actors. I've helped put some of those bad actors in jail. But we're here to protect and serve.
Yep.
You are a peace officer.
Yeah.
That's, blessed are the peacemakers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's huge. But the satanic stuff, yeah, I mean, it's out there. And again, people hop on this and they can't fit in. There's a lot of common traits. Even if you can go back to like the 80s or before, like cults, gangs, it's the same. That they'll usually try to find somebody from a broken home.
Yes.
That's having problems at home. Maybe they've been molested. Maybe they grew up with drug addicts as parents, whatever it is. Maybe they're just needing to belong. They can't fit in socially. They can't find a partner. They don't feel loved. And if you're a young teenage kid, what kind of pushed me when I was messing with the witchcraft and devil worship stuff is you're looking, I mean, it's testosterone, but it feels good to feel powerful sometimes, Yeah. And you get that and that need to belong, and you find that like-minded, and then you start going down a bad rabbit hole. And, sometimes you wake up before you do something stupid. Sometimes you do something stupid and you get locked up, but there's still redemption.
Awesome.
In my opinion.
Awesome.
Because I've seen it. I mean, I'm a fan of it.
Yeah. Your church experience, you found churches that really can embrace masculinity and support you, honestly, in the gifts that God has given you and the work that you've done.
Yeah. I mean, in order to get to my house, you have to pass two of my pastors. You have to pass
cool.
You have to pass the father, who was the senior lead pastor forever, and he's passed the torch to, his son busted his tail for it. He wasn't giving it. Yeah. It was a competition kind of thing, and he put in the work, and now and he built his house on the same. So it's their two houses you got to pass to get to mine. So there's all kinds of things out there. Like even your F3 is like a workout group. It's a Christian group. Yeah. And they meet in the mornings, and it's you can do the women or men, but it's that one. I think F3 is mainly men, and you meet up and but small groups. The guys in my small groups are all. There's some alpha dudes in there. Yeah. Yeah. Former military, motorcycle riders, whatever. But I mean, if you look at the Bible, I don't know. Again, you have to remain humble to God, but I mean, somebody had to kick Lucifer out of heaven. Oh, somebody's got to. I mean, I'm not saying go all to Old Testament, but
you don't even have to go Old Testament. I think for me, I have been. I love Christian apologetics. I love C.S. Lewis. I think. Have you seen the Lord of the Rings series? Is Tolkien? Oh, yeah. So, like, to me, you've got C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien during the World War times, not able to grapple with the kind of evil that they're seeing. That and they write in different ways. Both of the series, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and of course, Lord of the Rings, are really they're grappling with evil, and so. It's interesting to me that at that point in time versus go back to like the Viking series or the Viking times and, masculinity in that really warrior type way was embraced. And if you go through all of history around that time, it was embraced everywhere because that's what a man was, I think it's interesting that the definition of what a man was, the strong protector, provider, sheepdog, if you will. I mean, that was such a powerful role that God created man for. But then we started to get more comfortable and you start to see, feminization coming in. I read an article that talked about in the 13th century, Catholicism was the first time we moved from a masculine view of God and the church and embracing gender roles, the gender roles of masculinity and femininity, and how it happens. And this is where I think evil is just so slick, is the Catholic Church started to say that the prime deity that they would put up and look to was Mary. And up until that point, the prime deity was always Jesus. And so you had the prime deity was masculine. And quite frankly, there was a balance of Jesus, the lion of the tribe of Judah, and Jesus, the lamb that was sacrificed. I mean, he is both and 100% those things. But you start to see this softening of who Jesus is from that point forward. And it's interesting that most of our churches today only want Jesus the Lamb. And so that I wonder, I mean, I think that's, we need.
I think a lot of those churches are dying on the vine, though.
Well, there's a lot of mainline.
At least in the Southeast where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So like you go and you're like, okay, but I mean, you read the Bible.
Right.
It's in there. You can be tough and you can be a lion and a lamb. You can,
absolutely.
I mean, look, a sheepdog. I mean, I've got a Great Pyrenees. You don't even have to train them. You don't have to train them. They
livestock protection dog too.
They are bred to protect. They are passive around the animals they protect, but if a wolf or coyote comes up, it is done.
Yep.
And you're like, I don't even have to train the dog. That's
right.
And I'm like, what a kindred spirit. The first time we rescued one, once I learned that dog, I was like, oh my gosh, we're kindred spirits.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's my soul animal right there,
That is awesome.
Yeah. I would say the generational thing over the years, because I'm a trainer. I was a tactical trainer, SWAT guy. I was the lead tactics instructor, defensive tactics instructor, firearms instructor, active shooter. I'm still teach active shooter. I'll be doing it next week. I'll be somewhere near Memphis, Tennessee, getting shot a lot. But I know that things changed, like the family unit. The man's role, this, that, and the other. I know my belief system, and I know what the Bible says. And for me, that you follow that, and that's, I mean, it's there. It's your blueprint's right there.
Yeah.
And when you start taking God out of everything, you start to see crazy stuff going on. Now, I mean, my friends who are pagans, they don't believe that way, but it's as a Christ follower, that's what I know, and my belief is, if you take that stuff, if you take the Lord out of everything, you start seeing all these problems.
Yeah.
And again, what's the biggest lie that Satan ever told? He doesn't exist.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would say the questioning his character, but I agree with you.
The evil's biggest lie is like, hey, there's no such thing as evil.
You need to be God.
There's no such thing as evil. Yeah, there's no.
Yeah.
I was talking to where was I? I think, was it Glenn Beck's show? Who did I talk to? They had somebody that was an atheist that they knew, but that atheist, there was something that had happened, and an atheist doesn't believe there's evil. They didn't believe there's a devil or a God.
It's amazing.
But it was something. They didn't tell me the incident, but it was something that was so horrific that even the atheist was like, the only way I can make sense of this is that is just pure evil. Yep. Which made them have to start thinking twice about their belief system.
Wow.
So.
Yeah.
I usually come in joking. I go to an atheist. I got a buddy who's an atheist. You're like, hey, let's just say this.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you the doom and gloom and you're not worthy. I'm like, it doesn't suck to be a Christian. You can still have a great life, you know? I said, but let's just say you believe there's no such thing and I believe there is, and we both die at the same time.
Yep.
And I said, if you're right and I'm wrong, I'm not really out anything.
Yeah.
I still had a good life.
Yeah.
I said, but if I'm right and you're wrong, it's too late.
Yep. Pascal's waiver, I think that is, right?
Like, that's kind of starting in with a little, get you a little joking. Tell me how that makes sense. But I mean, I've seen evil. Like I said, I've been evil. It's out there. And then on our belief system, you're going to start getting into spiritual warfare where there's different,
Yeah. What, from everything you've seen and experienced, are there ways that the church, I mean, I'm talking about the whole body of believers, can be more supportive of, well, even like, anybody protecting us or police officers, those kinds of things? Are there things that you've seen that you kind of wish could be different in the church?
I think it's going to be a case by case basis.
Okay.
It'll be a church to church thing. Like again,
Yeah.
my church,
Yeah.
I say again as if you know, but
Yeah.
my church, the county works it. I go out and
Uh-huh.
in between services when I'm playing, and I'll go grab a cup of coffee and I'll talk to them, and
Nice.
they're working it. They're doing traffic control. They're in there. They're watching, but they're also worshiping. They go and sit and watch the sermons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in my church, we embrace it.
Yeah. And I love it.
And that's and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
In my book,
Mm-hmm.
But heck, I'm armed. I'm up on the stage armed playing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I need to swing the guitar and take a couple of shots,
It cracked me up to hear that you were a worship leader, but you're kind of incognito because you can't be outed because you're undercover. Like that, I just can't even imagine.
Yeah, that was one case here.
Yeah.
I was close to home, so
Yeah.
But and they they pipe that stuff into the prisons too, so which is good. I mean, we got the God behind bars. We were talking about that earlier.
You guys did. Okay, very good.
Yeah, God behind bars, celebrate recovery, and they're playing that stuff, and they're like, "Man, we're playing it." And I go, "I'm not going to let it interfere with me worshiping. If it screws up the case in my job, oh well, I'm not going to let it interfere anymore." So
yeah.
So I was the headless guitar man for a year and a half.
You were the headless guitar man.
Yeah. I was a hand model. I just see this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh goodness. Well, you a great example of a model of biblical manhood that I do, even just in the evangelical church, would love to see it embraced full force. And I love that you have a church where that is happening and you haven't really experienced. How do you see anything around just how society defines masculinity and some of this underground movement for even like I personally don't get white supremacy at all. I mean, it just doesn't make sense why you would want to be like
black supremacy, leftist supremacy. It's all it does.
I mean, it is just, it's crazy. I won't get into that story. But
here's what I tell people. I go, look, it's okay for you to like something I don't.
Yeah.
It's okay for me to like something you don't.
Yeah.
We can still get along.
Yeah.
We can still be friends. I mean, do you like oxygen? I love oxygen. Do you like to eat? I like to eat too. Let's just start there. There's two things we just bonded on.
Yeah.
It's any extreme, in my opinion, is just stupid.
Becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And from a lot of what you've seen, most people are not on the extremes. It's just these fringes of things that you follow of individuals who maybe, we talk a lot in our ministry about, there's core longings that we had that were met in the Garden of Eden. We need to love and be loved. We need to belong. We need to be understood. We need to have significance and purpose, and those were all met even in the cultural mandate that God gave us. Usually people try to fill those things with things that are not God if they don't fill it with God. But it feels like the extreme sides tend to be looking for those things, not finding them, and just kind of even going in really rogue kind of ways to fulfill those things. Does that make any sense to what you've seen?
Yeah, but a lot of it circles back, like it's been here, like, and now it's just reintroduced to younger kids.
Okay.
That belief system.
Yeah.
But it's being driven by something evil. I mean, generally. Yeah. I mean, if you, for me, if I look at any debate or whatever, and I say, let's, the first thing we do, let's just put it on the table, full beginning to end, not a 5-second clip, just full beginning end, and let's look at it and say, is this evil or is this good? For me, that's pretty easy. And generally speaking, most people can tell too. They may not agree with it, but there's something in their inner being telling them, I probably shouldn't do that. There are those that can't tell the difference, and there's psychological terms for them.
Right.
But
right.
But for the most part, like even if I'm talking to a group of 13-year-olds, I'm like, you shouldn't be sending nude videos of yourself on Snapchat.
Right.
But you do.
Yep.
But if I ask you really, do you think that's good or bad? So I guess the best way for me to say it is I'm a glass is half full guy. I'm an optimist.
Yeah.
If I wasn't, I don't know if I could have done this job personally. I probably would have jumped out of a window a long time ago, seeing some of the stuff you see and the horrific things that happen on a daily basis. Even more so when I was uniformed. At the FBI, I'm removed several steps away because I'm not on a beat every day, but maybe on the call out or the takedown, we see bad stuff or through the investigation. But as a uniformed cop, what you see every day and what you're exposed to, oh my goodness. I mean, first responders, we're number one, and I'm including military in that.
Okay.
First responder and veterans, we are number one in suicide, divorce, alcoholism, which you can throw pills or other stuff in there.
Yep.
And we're usually first to die within 5 years after retiring.
Yeah.
Because it's such a pressure cooker.
Yeah. I think 95% of all occupational deaths are men, and the majority fall into the category that you're talking about. It's pretty large number. Well, I'm going to wrap. Thank you for all that you've done for us. Thank you for being a protector and just for stepping into the gifts that God has given you. It's good to know there are people like you out there.
I've been blessed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so Scott, I'm back in the seat. You had the opportunity to chat with the love of my life. You have one of those.
The prayer warrior.
The prayer warrior. Dude, she's going to be praying for you. You got another team, just so you know. Okay?
Good. I need it.
Yeah, man, because stamina is what we probably are going to pray for most, because I'm sure your publicist has you on a pretty strict and amazing, just like you were sharing earlier, schedule.
Hopefully it's slowing down a little bit now, but I did have to call him one day. I had like 5 interviews in one day on a Thursday, and I was like, bro, I can't.
That's too much.
I'm like, I don't even know if I've talked about stuff already. I'm like, hey.
I get that. Yeah, when we do more teaching in 1 week with multiple groups, like, did we tell you that? Or did we say that last week or what? Yeah.
Did we talk about the goat yet?
Exactly. Did we talk about the goat? Yeah. And the worst, and the other thing, I mean, I don't know if you've had this yet, but you will if you haven't, is wait till the speaking engagements kick in where you're flying all over, right? So
that I'm used to, because that's how this all started. I teach these blocks. I've got blocks of instruction on the outlaw stuff, me crashing, all the white nationalism stuff, and I travel all over the country and sometimes the world teaching that stuff.
Oh, good.
But now that I'm retired, I'm still doing it. But
I think you got a new career. You're not retired. This is just something different. So. Yeah. Well, listen, my friend, thank you. This has been awesome. We get down your way, we're going to look you up.
Behind every successful man is a praying woman. Like this. You have praying mom or a praying wife. And I can't.
Or grandmother. I got them all. I got 3 grandmothers, mom, wife.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and daughters now. I guess I got 4 levels.
Yeah, you certainly do. Yep. You need it. Everyone, my audience, friends, this is going to be a 2-parter, so keep your eyes out for it. Scott, thank you. It has been so cool to get to know you a little better, and we're gonna spread the word again for those of you who weren't paying attention. Now you pay attention again. You better have been paying attention. Codename Pale Horse. How I went undercover to expose America's Nazis, but it's more than that. There's a whole lot more in here that you guys are going to want to dive into, and our believing friends understand that this is God's calling. This is what God's got him into, or he did. He's got a different calling now to spread the word another way. So thank, brother. Appreciate having you.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Blessings. We'll see you soon, I'm sure.
All right. Yes, sir.
This was another episode of the Embracing Brokenness podcast. For more information on Embracing Brokenness Ministries, please visit our website at embracingbrokenness.org.